It happened in 1996. I was having lunch with one of my colleagues in my office canteen. At some point during the conversation, he asked, "There is a new yoga program in town from someone called Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev. Want to try it?" "Hell with all these yoga programs. I have done enough," I said. I had previously done Vipassana, Vetatri Kundalini, Vivekananda Yoga and a few more such programs. But then, I was a bit tired of all these spiritual adventures. However, my colleague decided to give it a try and joined the 13-day class by Sadhguru. Actually, I noticed the shift in him after the program. "You must do this program," he started to tell me afterwards. Later, he found another way to entice me to do the class. Isha is organizing a tour of the Himalayas, but only an Isha meditator can register for it. He told me, "Sometimes in early May, I had always fancied visiting the Himalayas, and this Dhyana Yatra seemed like a good enough reason for me to give it a go." So, I sat for the 13-day class in June 1996. I liked the class, but didn't think too much about it. Later again, as insisted by my friend, I came to do Bhava Spandana program in the ashram in September, just before we were going to leave for the Dhyana Yatra. It was the first time I realized that there could be more to life than I understood. It was the fourth day of Bhava Spandana. What had been happening the previous 3 days happened that morning as well. Many were in tears and some were even howling and hugging each other. I had been looking at all these things with a certain sense of distaste from the beginning of the program. What are these people possibly venting out here? I wondered at times as I mocked some of the participants whom I knew from before for crying and all. That afternoon, Sadhguru asked us to go out and be with nature. We all came out and I sat next to a little shrub wondering what to do next. After looking her and there at other people, I started to pay some attention to that little shrub as Sadhguru has instructed. In just few minutes of looking, something phenomenal happened within me. Tears started to roll down slowly. As an adult, I had been very rooted and a content sort of person. I hadn't cried even once in the previous 12 years. So, why am I crying now? What am I crying for? I consciously asked myself, even while the process was on, I couldn't find any reason. I had no memories of any unpleasant experience or pain or suffering coming alive at that moment. There was no negativity in my mind, but I was crying and crying, and it went on for nearly 3 hours. As we went back into the hall, I even went and hugged Sadhguru. That was the first time my logic was totally blown. Within the next 10 days, we went for the Dhyana Yatra with Sadhguru. We were 216 traveling sleeper class in a train from Coimbatore to Delhi. I was assigned to be in the compartment with Sadhguru and Vijima and a few other Brahmacharis. Sadhguru was very friendly with everyone and from time to time would go to each compartment to meet all the participants. Even when we later traveled by bus, he would travel in a different bus with a different set of participants each day. During this train journey, I once got to serve water to Sadhguru. I noticed that before receiving the water from me and even while returning the empty glass back to me, Sadhguru very gently did namaskaram. His gesture actually embraced me. Why would anyone express so much gratitude for receiving just a glass of water? I thought. His gesture deeply touched me. Many powerful things happened in those years around Sadhguru. From Vijima's Mahasamadhi to the Dhyanalinga consecration, I had always looked at Vijima as somewhat childish and intense. She was extremely attached to Sadhguru and sometimes wondered how Sadhguru's wife could be like that. During the Dhyana Yatra, I would see her at one time like a child, another time intensely devoted, totally lost in a different dimension. Her Mahasamadhi, therefore, betrayed all my notions of spiritual evolvement. After she left her body, we saw Sadhguru struggling with the entire consecration process. One day, I remember he mentioned to us, looking at what we have in hand logically, I see no other option but to merge with the linga to make it happen. but my heart says I'm going to die as an old man. When Sadhguru fell right in front of me after the consecration process, I held on to the voice of his heart and somehow felt that he would be with us for a long time. To our immense fortune, he is. I could visit the temple only around 9 p.m. When I sat inside the temple, the whole ambience, the linga, the dome, the inner parikrama, everything seemed heavenly to me that day. Perhaps it was the first time I had noticed how beautifully the panels and pillars were carved. Around that time, Sadhguru too walked in. It was amazing to see that from that time, Sadhguru stepped inside the inner parikrama till he entered the dome. Just for those few moments, there was a divine drizzle that descends to welcome him. Way back in 2000, in one of the teachers' meet, I asked Sadhguru a question. What is the difference between you and Gautama the Buddha? He said, there are many parallels between us, but there is a one big difference between him and me. What is that, Sadhguru? I implored further. Ashoka, he said. He had Ashoka and I only have. I understood that. Sadhguru was referring to that one big force. This was a strong statement from Sadhguru, and it really stirred my intensity and longing to take his work to one and all. After that meeting, I sat down to contemplate who is that Ashoka in today's world. I realized that it was the media that has the power to take messages across the world these days. So I started to work for it. In many ways, this particular statement was the fire behind my effort to make inroads into Tamil Nadu media during those days and finding way to reach out to the influencers. Recently, I realized that I had turned 50 a few months back, but I don't feel I have aged. In fact, I feel much more alive and vibrant than I was even in my college days. My journey with Isha and Sadhguru has been so enriching and fulfilling that I would never exchange what Sadhguru has given us in the form of sadhana and brahmacharya with anything in the world. Finally, I often recall the first thing Sadhguru had told me when I came here full time. You should be like a stone. We will throw you whatever we want. Is that okay with you? My only longing is I'm waiting for the day and that moment. When I became totally free from the need for any action to simply be in total freedom. Until then, willing to be thrown anywhere, anytime, any number of lifetime.